how you arrange your body, how you align your body affects the mind. How you use the mind affects the body. They're not really two things. And so in our yoga, we're actually working primarily with the body, and kind of central within that is the Buddha's teaching around mindfulness. And he talks about mindfulness of the body and also mindfulness of sensations, mindfulness of what you can feel within the body as being two direct ways to liberation. And so our yoga work is a mindfulness practice. It's a liberation practice, an enlightenment practice, if you like.
Hello and welcome back to Breakfast with Boots. I'm your host, Becca Boots, and today is the 8th part of my 10-part series where I bring on people in my network so they can share with us their nuggets of gold and their wonderful life experiences. Today is no exception. I have with me Julian Daizan Skinner. Now, he is Zen master and founder of Zenways. He trained me as a yoga teacher and he will be training me as a meditation teacher. He has an absolute wealth of knowledge and experience, and you will love listening to this man's wonderful storytelling abilities. So let's bring him on. Hi Daizan, it's really good to have you here. It's so good to see you again. So for those who don't know you, could you please introduce yourself and let them know what you do?
All right. My name's Julian Daizan Skinner. I'm a Zen guy. Spent about 30 years in that world. These days I'm based in the UK and primarily London. We have a little dojo here, but we do teaching all over the place, and especially with the online stuff. All the stuff we do is through a website called zenways.org. We have a professional Zen yoga teacher training, and we also have a professional meditation and mindfulness teacher training. We do a lot of retreat type stuff, and it's all really grouped around helping people to wake up, to find out who they really are, and then to embody and live that out in such a way that they can live their best possible life, and so that they can make a difference in the world.
Oh, I love that. And that's so true. And when I was on your yoga course, I could see that running throughout your entire yoga course. It's wonderful. So talking about your temple years, so you spent a lot of time you spent 14 years in a monastery in the UK, and then you went on to Japan and spent, was it another 7 years there?
No, about another 5 years, I think it was, something like that. So the whole thing was probably around about 20 years, really. And so I came back from Japan in 2007. And so there's different lineages in Zen. There's two main ones. Yeah. And so I sort of studied both. And you sort of go up the ranks, really. So a bit of a slow learner, had to do it all twice.
Brilliant. So you did Zen, you became a Zen, what would you call it? The Zen monastic Zen. You became a full-time monastic Zen, is that right?
That's right, yeah, yes. So the term they use in Japanese is unsui, and un means like a cloud, and sui means water. And the idea is you're supposed to float through the world like a cloud or like flowing water in search of the truth, really. That's your job. Your one job is, and your life is supposed to be dedicated towards that. And people support you in that. You know, people over the centuries have considered that a sort of a noble quest. And so, you know, you have a responsibility in that there are these people whose hard work is behind what you're doing, you know. And so I had basically 20 years really living on the generosity of amazing, beautiful, kind people. And so now I have to give back. You know, it's very important. I have to make sure that, you know, the next generation can do all right and so on.
Yeah, because you were named the successor, weren't you, of Shinzan Roshi?
That's right. So my teacher over in Japan, he named me as his successor. So that means you get the job of, as it were, you know, bringing up the next generation. You've got to find, you know, you've got to build the future, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you get about 15 minutes to enjoy it. You know, oh, great, made it. And then, boom, it's like he puts this rucksack on your shoulders. Right, this is your job.
Brilliant. So what are the, so when you say you're searching for truth all your life, do you feel like you've found that truth or a kind of sense of it yet?
So I would say I've been very, very fortunate, and I've had some real significant doors open for me. I'm still on the road. I've still got more to find and explore. I'm still very much work in progress, but I've got far enough down the road that I seem to be able to help other people sort of come into the gate, as it were. And as long as I, you know, it seems, as long as I keep on trucking myself and do my work and take it on, then the road seems like pretty open. And in fact, you know, my teacher, Zen Master Shindo, he used to say to me, oh, you know, practice in your 70s is so much more fulfilling and deep than practice in your 60s and so on. So I don't get the sense that he ever stopped, that we're on a journey here where maybe it's a little bit like an artist. You know, an artist doesn't really sort of reach an end point, at least the ones who we really respect, like maybe Picasso, it seems to continue. There's an ongoing kind of quest and journey. But at the same time, you know, Picasso did some pretty nice things, well, even when he was quite a young guy, really.
So it's a lifelong journey.
I feel so. I feel so. And why shouldn't it be? Because life is change. Life is a flow. Life is ultimately more like music than anything else. And so what we're doing in this business that we're in, I feel, is we're learning to dance. And there's no end, I think, to who would want to finish the dance? You know, it's like we're not dancing to get anywhere. The dancing is for the dance. And so who'd want to make the music stop?
I love that. It's so true. Well, that's what yoga is, isn't it? It's like a slow motion, kind of mindful dance. I love that.
Yeah, I feel so.
So when you were in your temples, and I think in the monastery, you spent 7 years of your time within a 6 foot by 3 space where you meditated and ate and basically lived. How was that for you?
Well, the space was quite big. It was the meditation hall.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of space, but my actual living spot was the size of, basically, as you describe, 1 meter by 2 meters roughly, or 1 yard by 2 yards. And so you have to learn how to focus and cope where you've got essentially no space. You've got a guy either side of you, and you know, this guy might snore, this guy might talk in their sleep, you know, this guy might toss and turn. You might be a pain in the neck for them. There's nowhere to hide, really. And the image, really, that they used and they kind of shared with us was the image of the rock tumbler, you know, where you've got this sort of drum, get all these pebbles off the beach or somewhere, in they go, and they sort of grind against each other for the months and years. And then out come these, ideally, these beautiful jewels. So the idea is you get all shoved in together, and either you get some edges knocked off, or you run out screaming. But then I feel family life is very much the same, really. And it's the same kind of process, really. And family life can work incredibly well for some people and be very, very tough for others.
Yeah, massively. I like that connection between the family and actually being in that space. And that rock tumbler, I think, because I remember in your book, which I've got here, you mentioned how you were almost never alone.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive thing to take on.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And, you know, perhaps back in the old days, there was more of that. You know, perhaps people lived that way much more. Perhaps they were, you know, very sort of cheek by jowl. And certainly in Japanese culture, that seems to be much more normal. You know, I've had friends who talk about still, you know, sleeping in the same bed as their grandma when they're 11 years old. Things like this, you know, everybody gets in the bath together at the end of the day, stuff like this. So maybe there's partly a cultural thing going on there. And us Brits are all in our own little boxes or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was certainly something I had to deal with. And I don't know, it was probably, I don't know, not that long, maybe say 6, 7 months into that business, I kind of suddenly had this realization that out of the 30 odd other people who were living in the place, I had a grudge against every single one of them. It was like, boom, 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 boom. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this? Either we sort this out or, you know, I'm not going to sort out 30 different scenarios. And so you, hopefully, you kind of learn something and you learn about what's important and you learn primarily how to let go. And this whole business, all of the work we're doing on the physical level with the yoga and so on, with the inner, the meditation type work, the mindfulness work, the retreats, all of it really is about learning to let go. Because when we let go, we also let come. Our life goes from being kind of tight, closed, blocked, you know, little old me, great big universe, to a kind of an openness where as I let go, also something new arises. And so there's a kind of an ongoing dynamism, a flow, a connectedness. And that's a whole lot more fun.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's the struggle that we all have at the moment, isn't it? We find it's hard to let go of old emotions or old grudges, or let go of possessions and material things and things like that. So how did you go through that process of letting things go?
Well, I'm a very slow learner and I'm still, as I say, work in progress very much. But basically, I find what works best for me is just seeing as clearly as I can how blooming miserable it is to be like hanging on, you know? And the more I can see that, the clearer I can see that, it's almost like the kind of the opening starts to happen by itself. So that's where I put my attention really. When things feel like it's there's a block or closed or kind of tight quality, I just sort of, as it were, make that the object of my attention, that closure, and that seems to be, you know, relatively effective at turning things around. But I blow it all the time. My teacher's teacher, when I first met him, I remember we sat down, had a cup of tea, and he'd been doing this for ages at that point. And he was kind of reflecting back over his life. And he said, you know, it's a little bit like a drunk walking down a path. Couple of steps and I'm off in the hedge, you know, up I get, couple of steps, I'm off in the hedge on this side. And that's kind of how it's been for me too. But the thing about it is, if you're willing to keep on getting up, you know, you get down the path. It may not be that elegant, but you do get down there, you know. So that's sort of, yeah, that's kind of how it sort of feels, really. Little bit. And, you know, as you get down, things do get better. Life gets better. Life gets more vibrant, if you like, more alive, more free.
Like that. I remember you teaching us about the troublesome Buddha.
Yeah. So we have this saying, Buddhas appear troublesomely and ancestors teach in detail. That person who drives you up the wall, and family are just fantastic at this because they really can press your buttons. And the thing is, we can't deal with our stuff in the abstract. It's only as it arises that we actually can start to bring some awareness and some peace to it. And so it's that person who can press your button and bring the stuff up that in that sense is the teacher of the moment, the Buddha of the moment, if you like. So we have this saying, Buddhas appear troublesomely. And actually Mark Westmackett, who studies with me, he's writing a book at the moment called, I think it's called Troublesome Buddhas, about this interpersonal dimension of practice, because for most people, their greatest joys really, and also their deepest pains, are around other people and their relationships and how they are with other people. So it seems a very important dimension to examine pretty thoroughly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I'll definitely check that book out. I taught that to my I have a Toastmasters group, and I had a meeting not I think the day after I got back from the yoga training, and I taught that to them before the meeting. I said, I just want to let you know my thought of the day is, I said, just about the troublesome Buddha. So I passed it on through everyone else in the club, and they loved it.
They liked it. That's nice.
Thank you for teaching me that. So in terms of so you left to go to the temples in 1989.
89, was it? Yeah, that sounds right.
Is that about right, when you went to the UK temple? And then
that's right.
I've been checking you out in your books. And then you came back in 2007.
Yeah.
And when you came back in 2007, you did it in style, didn't you? You did an epic walk. So you did a 777-mile walk. Do you want to tell everyone about that?
Well, that's what Google Maps said it was. So I guess they must be right. So, well, I've been off the face of the earth for a long time by that point. And so I came back from Japan. And so it was one of those things where I didn't really have any money and I didn't have any invitations or connections much. And so I didn't really have a sense of what to do. I didn't have anywhere to live. I had a few people who made a few kind of offers I could stay for a few days, but that was really it. So, so I went down to the south tip of the Isle of Wight. I had my robes on, and I basically started walking northwards. And I walked across the island, and then managed to hitch a ride on a boat across to Portsmouth, and just carried on going north. And my plan was to basically hug the centre line of the island of Britain. So I started at a lighthouse, St. Catherine's Lighthouse, down in the south tip of the Isle of Wight, and I finished at a lighthouse, which was Cape Wrath, up on the north coast of Scotland. And so basically I didn't carry money. I just lived on the food that people put in my bowl along the way. And so it was a little bit of an adventure in the sense of I didn't really know how that's going to work. I mean, in Japan, you stand in the doorway, you've got a big hat on, so your face is covered, kind of like this, and you shout. And that clearly wasn't going to work in Portsmouth or what have you. So it took a little while to find a sort of a way of making it work. But it did. And so people did appear, and there I was. What was it? 64 days later, I ended up at Cape Wrath, at the lighthouse up there. Yeah, with just in awe of the kindness, the generosity, the beautiful people that I'd met along the way. Yeah,
and you did meet some amazing people along the way. What was the difference for you, pre-walk, post-walk? How are you?
Walk. Well, the walk was really interesting, and it was a real good tester, because it's an exercise in insecurity, really. I didn't know where I was going to sleep. I didn't know where the next morsel of food was going to come from. All I basically had was a direction, like a north as good as I could. And so what I found was kind of two modes. There was, I guess, what we could call worry mode or calculating mode, where I was trying to work out, am I going to get to rugby to get enough time to get somewhere to eat today? Am I going to find some cover? And am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Have I got another hour before the rain comes? All that sort of stuff. Now, if I got into that worry mode, in terms of the actual physicality of the walking, it got slower, it got harder, my feet hurt more. It was much, much more of a trudge. And then I'd suddenly realize that's what I was doing. I'd drop all that, and it was like, boom, and the universe would be walking. And I'd be just scooting along, you know, just like, really, it was like the landscape was doing the walking. And then, I don't know, half an hour later or something, I'd get back into this, oh, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? All that stuff. And it was like an exercise in really, really studying how we hobble ourselves, essentially, how we actually limit ourselves by trying to be clever, by trying to work out too much ahead. Life doesn't really allow us more than really one move ahead. You know, it's not like chess where these clever guys are thinking like 5 moves ahead. It just doesn't really work, you know, just snags you up. The power is in this moment. And the more we can connect with that, if we can look after this moment, then the rest looks after itself. So that's what that walk was really about. That was the learning for me, just doing this. And when I came back to that, when I could really connect with that, the universe did the walking. It wasn't even me anymore.
Oh, that's lovely. It's like you're being carried along your way.
Yeah, yeah. Very physical, very visceral.
Fantastic. So what did you do once you got to the top of Scotland?
Well, so right up there at Cape Wrath, you're at the end of the universe, really. You have to, there's a boat crossing to get across a river mouth. And then the last, I think it's about 14 miles, if I remember rightly, there's this kind of little track out to the lighthouse. So I arrived at the lighthouse in a rainstorm. I mean, it was that kind of summer. It was just constant, really. And I was really, really exhausted. That last 100 miles through the Highlands, there hadn't been a lot of food, really, and I was pretty drained. And so, you know, like a lot of lighthouses, there were a few little buildings clustered around the base of it and stuff. And my sense was that I was the only person for probably 150 square miles, because that's army shooting range up there. You know, they have maneuvers and the Navy drops shells on it and whatever. There's a vast area that's basically MOD. So anyway, there's all these buildings at the base of the lighthouse, and it's very exposed up there. There's no trees. And if you park your car in the wrong direction in the winter, the wind is so strong, it just takes the door off. So there was this Land Rover in a kind of a wrecked garage that was parked up, and the door had gone off this Land Rover. So I got to my destination, completely exhausted. It's pouring with rain. I get into this Land Rover, and I'm sort of slumped over the steering wheel, just kind of snoozing, really, getting out of the rain, basically. I wasn't fully asleep, but I was pretty out of it, you know. And in this kind of dozing state, I gradually sort of became semi-aware that the rain was kind of easing off. But I was kind of only barely awake. And then I thought I heard a dog bark, you know, but I wasn't sure, you know. And then I thought another one. And then suddenly there were these 6 spaniels jumping all over me, climbing in the Land Rover and stuff. And so I got out, and there was a guy, there was a person. And there's a hermit lives up here literally in the middle of nowhere, a guy called John Muir, who's got, is him, he's got a cat and 6 spaniels, and he lives in the old lighthouseman's cottage up there. And so, you know, he was a little bit surprised too, but he was very kind. He welcomed me in, and, you know, we sat down together, and he's I think I told you on the yoga training, he's got a stack of tins in one corner of his room that's his food, and another stack of tins that's the dog food. And so he cooked some supper, and we just told stories half the night, really. And he was super, super kind, really. So that was the end of my journey. Me and John and the Spaniels up at literally at the end of the world. If you get a chance, he's been working up there because the West Highland Way, this long distance footpath, has been extended up to Cape Wrath. And he's kind of created a sort of like a little cafe now, so that just to keep him going up there. So if you get out there, you know, you can buy a cup of tea, and I don't know what he's got, green buns or something, you know, something,
Yeah.
probably Mars bars or what have you. So, you know, you can get to meet him, and you can get a bite to eat and a drink or what have you. And he's a great guy, and he's a guy in the right place. You know, he's not a hermit through any kind of, you know, like hating humanity or anything like that. He's a man in the right place. He's happy to be there, and he's also a man who likes company. You know, despite the fact that he's chosen this solitary life, about as far out as you can get on this island that we live on.
Yeah, with his spaniels.
Yeah.
That's a lovely story. You are a very good storyteller. I remember that over the course. You just tell these wonderful stories of these Zen masters in Japan, or stories in China and how Buddhism evolved. You have a wonderful knack of storytelling.
Oh, you're very kind.
Okay.
You're really selling the yoga course here. Well, I hope lots of your guys come and join us, because I must admit I'm very proud of it. I think we now have about 300 yoga teachers out there in various parts of the world doing beautiful things, and it really, you know, really touches and moves me to see how, you know, these lives are really out there making a difference.
Yeah, massively. And it's 14 really intense days, isn't it? Like,
It's pretty full on. It's pretty mad, really, isn't it?
I remember you get immersed completely in it. And something that really stuck with me from the course, and many things did, but one that stuck with me is how entwined yoga and meditation is. And I've kind of, you know, I've treated the training for these separately in my head, and I loved how they just entwined and became one, especially Zen yoga. Like, could you talk a bit about the relationship between yoga and meditation?
Yeah, well, it's a great point. So we have in Zen a saying in Japanese, igi soko buppo, which basically comes down to, buppo means the Buddhist truth, if you like, and it's basically like correct alignment or correct posture, if you like, actually is or manifests the Buddha's truth. What they found, these guys, over the centuries, is how you arrange your body, how you align your body, affects the mind. How you use the mind affects the body. They're not really two things. And so in our yoga, we're actually working primarily with the body, and kind of central within that is the Buddha's teaching around mindfulness. And he talks about mindfulness of the body, and also mindfulness of sensations, mindfulness of what you can feel within the body, as being two direct ways to liberation. And so our yoga work is a mindfulness practice. It's a liberation practice, an enlightenment practice, if you like. More than that, as we tune in, particularly to this sensations dimension, mindfulness of sensations, we could also call it mindfulness of aliveness. We become aware very intimately of the aliveness, the vitality, the energy within the body. And as we learn to kind of connect with this and manage this, then naturally all kinds of health things start to resolve. All kinds of you know, energetic things start to resolve, which are often emotional. I mean, emotion, energy and motion. So much in the emotional realm is about energetic, either blockages or areas that are overwhelmed and so on. So our meditation work, which is very much based around, again, physical alignment, clarity of perception, and the energetics, and the movement work, which is very much the same, are in many ways two faces of the same coin. So my teacher, Zen Master Shinzen, as we mentioned on the course, he liked to talk about Zazen, which means Za means sitting Zen or sitting meditation, and what he called Do Zen, or Do means movement, moving meditation. Zazen and Do Zen, and really they're very, very complementary. And so I see, you know, for some people, their way in is through the body. For some people, their way in is through the mind. But if it's going to be rounded, if it's going to be really sustainable, the way out is going to be the opposite. So the people whose way in through is through the mind, typically the body's going to come into focus. And there's going to be a whole lot there that really opens up. There's people who come in through the body, if the practice is really maturing and sustaining and benefiting them, they're going to have a whole new appreciation of the realms of awareness, the realms of the energetics, and so on. So yeah, absolutely, I very much agree with you that these are very, very intimately connected.
Yeah. Yeah, very well explained. I love that. And I think that's what I really like about Zen yoga, is that it's a lot more mindful, and you're moving with the breath, and you're moving and you're really mindful about sensing how you feel and really judging how you feel and what you need next. And that learning to kind of tune into what your body is communicating to you is really valuable.
I feel so, yeah. Yeah, it's very good for your health, very good for your emotional balance. And as I say, it's an enlightenment practice. If you follow through, then you'll find what the Buddha found. You'll find that liberation or awakening, as he put it.
Yeah, I love that. So on the health side of it, so this is, I'm really interested on this side. Yoga and meditation has been found, like you've said, really, really useful for healing yourself, not just physically, but emotionally. And using them in combination is really powerful. So so you mentioned about the emotion part of it. What is it that really kind of helps to trigger this healing in people?
So, well, the instinct, the human instinct when we hurt is to, as it were, to turn away, to direct our attention somewhere else, to put our mind somewhere else. Within our practice approaches, what we learn to do is what they call in Japanese ekohensho, which is to turn the light within. When you hurt emotionally or physically or mentally or on any level, when you hurt, if you turn your attention towards that hurt rather than to anywhere else, and then actually, as it were, approach that hurt and be with that hurt, like being with a friend who's in pain or suffering or needing you. So with no agenda, with no sort of attempt to manipulate or control or fix, but simply to be there like really the best friend you possibly can. When you do that, things change. Sometimes the pain actually increases for a while, but always it changes. Sometimes it moves, it goes to a different part of the body. Sometimes it turns to heat. Sometimes a load of tears come or a memory, but always things change. And over time, things that have been locked in, to our structure, whether physically, usually physically, but can be on other levels, those things start to just, as it were, untwist and come free. And then as they do, we're not carrying them about anymore. And our main problem in life is we just end up like a dustbin. All this stuff over the months and years, through neglect, distraction, busyness, it just builds up until we end up like, have you ever stayed in one of those student flats where nobody ever takes out the dustbin, And it's like, the kitchen bin, it just gets fuller and fuller and fuller until eventually just the last, whatever it is, sardine tin, and it's just chaos, it all collapses. And we can end up like that, where stuff can just build and accumulate until it could be something really minor, I don't know, the battery goes flat on the car or something, and it's just the final thing on top of everything else. And we can get sick, we can harm ourselves, for life. And through developing this inner clarity, through turning the light within, we become able to, as it were, pick up the warning signs way before it gets anywhere near the actual level of ill health. We can start to kind of, as it were, live vastly more skillfully. And, I've seen with my own eyes, people do remarkable things in terms of turning their lives around, just through that simple thing of turning towards rather than turning away. And you could say that principle underlies our yoga, our meditation, our mindfulness, really everything that we do.
Yeah, massively. Because like you said earlier as well, unless it comes up, like the troublesome Buddha, until something comes up, you can't deal with it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You can't deal with this stuff in the abstract.
I love that. Oh, on the course as well, I remember every single day we did yoga nidra. Just after breakfast, it was lying down, get comfortable, snuggle up, do my yoga nidra, and I am absolutely addicted now. So I'm going to run a Zoom nidra in a couple of weeks. I'm going to start running them, so very excited. So thank you for that. Now, for a lot of people don't know what yoga nidra is. So could you explain a bit more about it and what the benefits of that are?
Right, yeah. So I did a little talk around this morning, actually. So Gareth is one of our guys down here. He's my sort of main assistant at the moment. He's putting out stuff. We have a YouTube channel called Zenways. I think it's called Zenways. Yeah. Zenways. And so we had some questions come in around this area. So we have this word in Japanese, yume. Yume means, it literally translates as dream, but it also translates as vision. So it means dream in exactly the same way. We can use the word dream to mean like a deep wish, but also dream as in, things that happen when you're asleep. This whole realm of the visionary, if you like, is covered by this term yume. And yoga nidra practice is one beautiful way of learning to connect with this. So we talk on the course about the different mind states that we have. And we have this mind state. Every healthy human adult has, at least for part of their day, a theta wave mind state. So the theta wave state is what kind of brainwave state your mind is when you're in dreaming sleep. And it's that condition in which a lot of stuff gets processed. And it seems that dreaming is a very important way that we kind of digest life, if you like, and kind of make sense out of things. And also, it's how we make our connections. So in the yoga nidra practice, we're learning how to access this kind of dream state, if you like, while still being conscious. So we're actually learning how to, as it were, go into this and consciously connect with it, as opposed to just zonking out, where most people, or many people, they just don't know what's going on in their dream life. It's not an active part of their experience, or very, very little. So the yoga nidra is a wonderful way of connecting with this dimension. And it seems that people who have a sort of a natural genius dimension, like Einstein, retain the ability through life to actually consciously connect and access this theta state, this yume condition. And so this is something that in the yoga training we explore, because it's a place of inspiration. And as a yoga teacher, we need all the inspiration we can get. And it's also very restful. It's a wonderful arena in which a lot of stuff can get dealt with and processed. As I say, it allows us to, as it were, bring together the conscious and what's for many people unconscious. And that's a very, very valuable kind of quality to develop in my experience. It's lovely stuff too. It's just very, very pleasant to experience, isn't it, the yoga nidra?
Yeah, you come out of it and you're like, oh, that was so nice. And you always feel so much more energized after. Like I heard an hour of yoga nidra was as beneficial as 4 to 5 hours of sleep.
Makes sense. Yeah, I could believe it.
Yeah, so strong. Oh, that is wonderful. I think, obviously, had your time for quite a while. I've got 2 more questions and I'll let you go. One, what is the most profound lesson that has come to you over your 20, 30 years of all this that you've experienced?
No,
Pick one.
easy questions, eh?
Yeah, you know.
Most profound. I don't know. Gosh. How about we narrow it down a bit? So,
Okay.
most profound in what sense? Most transformative, or most generally useful in terms of sharing? How about we narrow it down a bit?
So when you left in 1989,
Yeah.
you were obviously looking for something.
Hmm.
You were searching for something other than what you had. So what did you find something along the way that kind of just switched in you and you thought, this is what I'm looking for?
Oh yeah. Didn't take all that long, really. I was so mad for it, really. So just under a year into it, probably, maybe 10 months, something like that. Yeah, I was sitting in meditation. For most people, it doesn't actually happen when they're sitting in meditation. The meditation primes the pump, but often it's later. But for me, it was sitting right there in meditation, and it was dark. I was sitting with all my, my fellow monks and a bunch of other people too, and it was literally in one moment, boom. I think the person I was sitting actually behind somebody else, and I think they were very tuned in. They were a very enlightened person, if you like. And I never got to talk to them directly about this, but I'm pretty sure it was kind of like a resonance in the sense that they were so on beam, they helped me to come on beam, and then poof, there it was. And I knew who I was. And I knew that on that level, I had no problems, that there were really no problems. I suppose another way to say it was life is good. Life is really good. And there's been, many more things of that kind along the way, but that was very important for me. And it was literally like sitting down like this and getting up like this, in a sense, a different person in a different world. And it's been a very, very beautiful thing we have a retreat process, 64-hour retreat process, basically like a long weekend, in which is geared towards helping people to do precisely that. And we have hundreds of people who get it every year. And it literally, it changes everything, because it's like we get it on every level of our being, that this sort of, if you like, worldview, or this sense of little old me, great big hostile universe, is simply just that. It's just a view. It's no more real than anything else. It's handy, stops us stepping in front of buses, but it's only a view. And we actually get a whole different perspective, where it's not me against the world, it's actually me and the world arising together, moment by moment by moment. No competition, no struggle, nothing. It's just this beautiful arising. And it's actually not all that difficult to do. It took me about 10 months, but like I say, I'm a bit of a slow coach. So yeah, that was kind of, for me, that was a significant evening, shall we say.
Yeah, sounds definitely a profound one. That's wonderful. It sounds very peaceful as well. I love that. So my last one, before I let you know where people can find you, my kind of mantra in everything I do is all about kind of the prevention and the early intervention side. I do a lot of work in mental health and well-being. And so how can you look after your well-being day to day so you can improve your mental health longer term? So what can you do right now to look after yourself, and taking that control back as well to say, I can look after myself? So my question would be, what is your one thing, if someone could do today to help take care of their well-being, what would that be?
Okay, well, I'm a big believer in what sometimes people call the golden hour, the first hour that you're awake in the day. They call it the golden hour because what happens in that hour kind of sets the day. So if you can, within that first hour, even find a few minutes to just be. So much in life is about do, you know. But if you can find some time to just be, to just breathe, to just smell the roses, just for whatever your variational version of is, to just be. It's worthwhile even getting up a little bit early to just take some time to do that. It's very good for you. And you can formalize that into a meditation practice, whatever. But the key thing is that you do it every day. Doesn't matter how long. Even, I remember my first teacher, somebody once asked him, what's the minimum? And he said, 3 breaths. If, you know, you wake up and you're already an hour late for work, whatever, craziness, just sit on the end of your bed, 3 breaths, and then start running, okay? I mean, if you've lost your job, you've already lost your job. 3 breaths ain't going to make that much difference. And if you can just develop the habit of taking some time to be every single day, it's a game changer. Life is really about habits. And if you can manage your habits, and basically that's about what you do repeatedly. There's some amazing research these days around habits. And the key thing is, if you can do this one thing every single day for basically about 100 days, the minimum apparently is, or the average is about 66 days, and some people take a little bit more than 100. But basically, if you can do 100 days straight, you're kind of safe. So if you can do just even 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever, 100 days, every single day, no days off, you know, no Sundays, none of that, every day, you'll change your life. At the end of that 100 days, you'll be playing a different game to when you started. So it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but it's just a matter of the continuity, the thread. If you can create the thread, you're already getting control. And, you know, you can then build on that. You can start to, as it were, create your life the way that you want things to be.
I love that. I absolutely second that. My first hour of my morning is completely protected. I do the same. I wake up, have that time to just be, do a little bit of meditation. Then I journal, so I can just get all my brain out onto a nice page, do some affirmations, do a bit of yoga, and then I go for a little walk.
Lovely.
It takes about 2 hours, but
well, that's really going to set you up.
So last question, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and Zenways?
Well, we have a website called zenways.org. That's probably the easiest place. Yeah. You'll find me on Facebook, Julian Daizan Skinner, Instagram, I think it's Julian Daizan, and also Zenways has Facebook and so on. Those are probably the easiest places. And YouTube, we have a YouTube channel with quite a lot of stuff now. We've got some yoga stuff on there. We've got an ongoing kind of thing where people kind of write in questions, and we sort of deal with those over time. We do my best to share the joy a little bit. So come and check us out there as well, perhaps.
I will. I'll put all the links in the show notes for you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Before you go, would you like to join me on your Maui habit?
Maui habit?
Yeah.
You talk about this. You've got to remind me. What
you need to do is just relax your shoulders. Okay, and we're going to say a nice little affirmation together.
And your listeners are going to say this as well. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. So you close your eyes, relax your shoulders, take a couple of lovely deep breaths, and say, today is going to be a great day.
All right. Together, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. And
today is going to be
a great day. Nice.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daizan.
You know that's a Zen saying?
Is it?
So Zen master Umon, I think it was, one of the great Zen masters, he had this saying, every day is a good day. We study it as a koan, you know, as a spiritual problem, you know. There's disasters. I'm falling apart, you know, my wife's just left me. How can this guy say every day is a good day? You know, what on earth is that about? Actually, it's a very, very productive question to, as it were, study within your meditation.
I love that. I love that. There's always a little sparkle in every day.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Have a lovely evening, and I will see you on the meditation course.
All right. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Take care.
Bye now.